Howdy! Garma speaking. Our first suit we'll cover will be Pale Rider, often referred to as Pale, and notorious for being the equivalent to Overwatch's Soldier 76. Pale Rider was regarded as one of the most played units. Boasting consistent damage, 1000 HP, 2 dashes, a heal pod, an EMP, and a grenade, Pale offers a lot for a suit that had some of the most straightforward mechanics in Gundam Evolution. In addition to giving a brief rundown of the suit's abilities and patch history, joining us for this video will be NeoNyle. Nyle will offer a brief introduction of themselves, including their competitive history, how they got into GEVO, and their own thoughts on the suit. Pale's consistency lies within his damage. With the suit's current status, Pale does 110 damage to a critical hit or headshot, 55 damage to the body, and 41 to arms legs. Damage dealt to arms and legs is reduced by about 25%. Damage falloff occurs at 300 G units, with a critical hit dealing 109 damage and a body shot dealing 53. Arms and legs do not follow this rule until the 400th G unit mark. At 400 G units, damage dealt is reduced by about half, totaling to 55 damage on a headshot, body shots dealing 28, and arms and legs dealing 21. Pale's accuracy is increased by aiming down sights. Pale's grenade deals flat damage that falls off gradually. Against any part of the suit, the grenade deals a flat 350 damage, falling off to 200 after roughly 10 G units, or the length of 2 to 3 small-sized units. The nade will also sap damage for up to 175 damage. The nade can also be thrown up to a distance of beyond 600 G units. Pale's EMP nade slows other units for roughly 2 seconds that step into the EMP nade, and can be thrown for as far as 150 G units. Pale's heal pod has a health pool between 200 and 300, healing up to 1200 HP over roughly 4.5 seconds. Upon being thrown, the heal pod has a slight activation of roughly 0.5 seconds before starting the heal, and can be thrown as far as 100 G units. Pale's ult, Hades, lasts 13 seconds and increases speed, damage boosting Pale by roughly 43% and increasing reload speed. Over the course of the game's lifespan, Pale saw a list of generally favorable buffs. Starting in the first patch of Season 1, Pale's first set of changes affected its ult and EMP. Ult charge at its ticketed threshold increased from 7800 to 9200. EMP slowdown duration was increased from 1 second to 2 seconds, however it would see a reduction in slowness from 50% to 30% in movement speed reduction to enemy suits. Starting Season 2, promoted as Mobius, Pale received a set of generally unfavorable nerfs that some regarded as putting the suit out of meta. Pale's damage would be decreased from 60 to 58 damage and see a massive nerf with the heal pod. Health restored would be reduced from 200 health a second to 120 health a second, and the cooldown increase of 14 seconds to 16 seconds. Pale's next set of changes would not be until the mid-patch of Season 3, Ignition. This update reverted some of the previous nerfs with heal pod, as well as giving Pale a rather generous set of buffs. Pale's nade damage was increased from 150 to 200, an increase in magazine capacity of 24 to 30, and a complete reversal of the heal pod nerfs, instead buffing the cooldown from the old 14 seconds to the now current 12 seconds. This was most likely in response to the increase in shield units added to the game, that being Hyperion, Saz, and Jim. It would be quite some time for Pale to see adjustments until Season 6 Light of Z. This balance would be a rework to Pale's primary weapon. Damage would further be reduced from 58 to 55, however we would see an increase in magazine size by 4 extra shots. Additionally, shot spread would be reduced from 1.5 to 0.5 while standing, 1.8 to 0.8 while moving, and a maximum shot spread reduced from 7 to 2. Hades' activation threshold would be reduced from 9200 to 8200, most likely due to the now growing roster of units.
Hello everyone, as you may know, I go by the username NeoNyle, but most of my friends usually like to refer to me as Nyle. A little bit of short history of myself. Obviously, I'm a gamer who has been playing since a little kid, with experience in a wide variety of games ranging from strategies, puzzles, actions, and even racing. plus many more, with shooters being my top favorite of course. I would consider Gundam Evolution to be my favorite game. Aside from shooters, my other favorites would be Monster Hunter and Advance Wars. I also have my fair share of consoles that I enjoy too, mainly the Xbox 360. How I first discovered Gundam Evolution is quite a silly story. To put it bluntly, at the time, I didn't own any PlayStation consoles, and I was really frustrated with how all the Gundam games were PlayStation exclusive. So, after a quick Google search for any Gundam games outside the PlayStation, I found Gun Evo coming to PC. After the discovery, I told myself I would dedicate this game as I would finally get to experience my first Gundam game ever. Despite everything I said so far, I was for the most part a casual gamer. It was not until Gun Evo that I decided to try out my luck and step into the competitive scene for the very first time. The first team that I tried out for the Burnsiders. I spent a good couple months with them, even playing the second Bandai's official showdown. Towards the end, I spent most of my competitive time playing for Team Fusion, and even ended up in 4th place for the Gundam Evolution Showdown number 3. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge thanks to Garma for inviting me here. While I'm not the best, nor do I claim to be, it is an honor to share my knowledge and experience that I've learned and been taught during the game's lifespan. To say Pale Rider is a fantastic suit is an understatement. Pale boasts some of the best DPS that no other suit can contest with. Combine that with excellent utility, and you got yourself a solid S tier unit. There's a reason why he's 100% pick rate for all the teams, with the only exception being is the JP scene, as the JP players have a different playstyle in which Pale Rider doesn't really fit into. While Pale Rider may not be the flashiest in terms of playmaking or clutch/hype moments, the suit is a dangerous powerhouse that everyone needs to watch out for. In regards to competitive play, Pale Rider is a must pick. If you do not include Pale in your team, then you are skipping out a huge potential in DPS and utility value. In my personal experience, Pale does not really struggle in any maps, as the suit can do well in most maps, with only one exception being is the first checkpoint in Harbor City. With long sightlines and open field, Pale will struggle a bit as enemies will either snipe him from a far range or juggle peek him for quick burst damage. Once you make it past the first point, Pale will have a smoother time. That being said, Pale Rider is not about no brains and all aims. What separates a good Pale Rider player from a great Pale Rider is beyond just aiming. You will need to know the fundamentals like game sense, game knowledge, positioning, target priority, matchup, map knowledge, rotation, flanks, map control, sightlines, origami, utilities, and many more that's just way too long to list out. I'm going to be going over what you can improve on when playing as Pale Rider, and any tips and tricks you can implement into your game. Let's start off with the obvious. You're playing an FPS game with a suit all about aiming. Of course you'll need good aim. First stepping stone in improving your aim is always warming yourself up. Get the blood pumping and your hands warm. You cannot do well on a cold start. Go into the practice range and just start shooting at moving targets. The goal here isn't to be perfect, but to get your arms and hands warmed up. After spending a few minutes warming up, you're ready to start doing some aim training. Typically, aim labs or callbacks are your recommended go-to options for honing your aim. Focus on tracking and tracing. Your goal here is to be able to track small targets, which should be the head moving around. You don't have to spend all day training. 30 minutes to an hour a day is good enough. And remember, your improvements will not be sudden, but more of a gradual climb. Do not overdo the training. Forcing yourself to play callbacks or aim labs 24/7 without proper guidance will only have diminishing results or zero improvements at all. There's a saying from a good friend of mine: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You will have to start off somewhere. Pace yourself. If you force yourself to go fast at the start, you will only end up in a jittery and messy result. There is no cheap shortcut. Try to start out slow. Let your arms get used to the movement and aim. Once you're able to achieve a consistent and excellent result every single time, that is when you want to start increasing the pace. This will be the smooth part. Be consistent results at a slow pace. Building up the muscle memory will allow you to go faster and faster in terms of aiming. Additionally, there's more to improving aim than just training on scenarios. You also need to learn how to properly control your arms and muscles. This subject goes into a lot of details, but to keep this short for the standard video, you'll need to learn how to relax your arms and muscles, and tense up arm will only cause more stiffness and choppy aiming. Simply just breathe in and out, loosen up your muscles and relax. Lastly, sensitivity also comes into a factor. However, this is a personal preference and not everyone plays on the same settings. You'll have to find out what is the perfect sense for you and your gameplay. You have to experience and try out yourself. Don't ever expect to start out perfectly. My aim never improved under a day. It took months of training to get where it is now. So never set yourself up too high or else you'll crash and burn with disappointment from the gradual climb. Map knowledge and positioning is a core component to your fundamentals. If you want to improve, you also need to learn this aspect as well. It doesn't matter if you have the aim of a god or straight up aimbot, no amount of aim can save you from the worst positioning ever. If you're out in the open with all 6 enemies having direct line of sight to you, aiming will not save your life. You'll need to know the proper position and power spots in various maps of Gun Evo. Typically, positions you want to be at as Pale are usually spots that will allow you to cover great sightlines without putting yourself in too much vulnerable situations. Alternatively, position you want to be in as Pale can also affect where your team wants to control, examples being health packs. One example being is the map Mountain R&D. Pale Rider would typically want to sit on the top of the hill. Obviously having the high ground is best suited for most suit, but for Pale it's even better, as you'll have line of sight on the point, low ground, and the adjacent hill. Pale can easily shoot down anyone trying to contest and push. In addition to that, controlling the hill with Pale allows your team to have access to potentially 3 health packs for your team. 1 near your spawn, 1 on the point, and 1 below the point. Holding the hill does not put you in any huge risk at all. If you find yourself being overwhelmed, you can easily fall back near your spawn. Not to mention, holding the high ground allows your team with excellent rotation from point A to C and vice versa, and can even drop you down to B point. But this is just one example. I want you to imagine this. Which spot can you take the most value as Pale Rider? Being able to lay down good DPS without putting yourself too much in a high risky situation. As a Pale player, you'll need to be aware of potential sidelines from any position on the map. Try to find positions that limits/reduces the enemy's angles on you, in order to prevent you from being shot at from multiple angles or even multiple flanking routes, while at the same time try not to hinder your own sightlines as well. Choke points is one example of this, as you can predict easily where the enemies will come from and not worry too much about flanks or additional sightlines. But knowing where choke points is located comes from a form of map knowledge. Learning the map can also contribute greatly to your own position too. It can help you learn what paths the enemies will take, which will give you knowledge on where to reposition yourself in order to intercept that enemy. Knowing where health packs are placed in the map can help you understand why you should gain control of them and to deny from the enemy. Also, understanding the power positions of the map will allow you to know which spots are a huge advantage to you while also being a disadvantage for the enemies to push into. When defending, think to yourself, where would the enemies come from and where would they want to attack from? Then think, how can I place myself so I can shoot them down without worrying too much about flanks or being shot back? Not only that, think about falling back. If you're being overwhelmed, does that position allow you to fall back safely without exposing yourself too greatly? When attacking, it's preferred that Pale stays close by with his team, usually in the back line of the team. Obviously, Pale is a frontline suit and cannot take a lot of damage. Although Pale is a powerhouse of damage, he can easily be soloed or picked off early in a team fight without any proper support. For beginners, I would just say use your abilities as soon as it becomes available. I want you to get in the habit of using your abilities as much as possible. If you're not using them, then you might as well not have them and not be playing the suit at all. Use everything to your advantage. There are so many matches where I watch a Pale Rider could easily win a fight had he thrown down his heal pod or throw his grenade, but lost simply because he was not paying attention to his own abilities cooldowns when they're available. As you play more and more and gain more experience, you'll slowly come to understanding of timing and when to correctly use your abilities to change the tide of a fight. As for your ultimate, Hades, you generally want to use it as soon as possible. A friend once told me, if you're going to use your ultimate, then you're not charging for your second ultimate, because what are you going to hold it for next season? Do not get into the mindset of using your ultimate for a clutch 6-man kill. It will never happen. Trust me, do not play this game like it's Overwatch. Even you only get 1 kill with Hades, you just turn a 6v6 into a 6v5. use your ultimate to turn the tide of battle and get further ahead with your advantage. Here are some quick tips that are either too short or do not fit into any category. When you're in a 1v1 with an enemy Pale Rider, it's usually better to save your grenade for when the enemy Pale throws down his heal pod. Using your grenade on the heal pod will quickly destroy it and do some splash damage to the Pale Rider as well. For heal pod, try to place it around corners and angles where it will be hard for the enemies to destroy it. Stay in the back line. You have a gun. Shoot it. You do not need to risk yourself by playing in a forward position. When you activate Hades, everyone will know you use your ult. If you can see anyone approaching you like a madman, immediately start moving or dodging. More than likely, the enemy is going to try to gun you down and solo ult you out of the fight. You should also learn how to G-dash. While Pale Rider doesn't have the best dash such as Dom, G-dashing will oftentimes allow you to live and escape from dire situations. Plus, it gives you better rotations and positioning. Crosshair placement is also a key aspect to aiming. Having good placements will result you not needing to put any efforts into aiming, as the enemy will walk straight into your crosshair. I also like to use the 60-40 rule as a way to gauge a 1v1, meaning I want to reduce 60% of the enemy's health before he has a chance to reduce 40% of my health. If that's the case, then I have a higher chance of winning the duel. If not, then that's a sign for me to fall back and reset. Understanding this will yield a higher survivability and less likely of a result of you looking at the respawn screen. Improvement will never come to you immediately. You must understand that it takes time and commitment. I can show you almost everything, but there's one thing I cannot give you, and that is personal experience. You must go out there and play the matches and learn yourself. Playing against bots will never be the same as playing against a real player. One of the many ways to get better is to simply lose and make mistakes, then to learn from those mistakes. I hope to see you all improve out there, and I hope this guide will at least help someone out there. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. This is NeoNyle, signing out.